All right, welcome back to American Agenda. Well, President Biden and other world leaders are calling on Hamas to release all the hostages still held in Gaza.
Chief White House correspondent James Rosen has more from Washington. Good afternoon to you, James.
Katrina and John, good afternoon. In a background briefing for reporters this morning, aides to President Biden squarely laid the blame at the feet of Hamas for the failure of recent talks aimed at securing a ceasefire for hostages deal. The president arrived earlier this afternoon at Hancock Field Air National Guard Base in Syracuse, upstate New York, where he was touting his administration's investments in cutting-edge technology. The statement the White House released at 9 Eastern was signed by Mr. Biden and 17 other world leaders from countries whose citizens remain held or missing inside Gaza. Before boarding Marine One for the trip to Syracuse, the president spoke with reporters briefly about his hour-long session in the Oval Office yesterday with Abigail Edan, the 4-year-old girl orphaned during the October 7 attacks on Israel, who was released as a hostage last fall. Accompanied by extended family, Abigail climbed through the Resolute desk the same way that John F. Kennedy Jr. once did.
That went really well. Her dad sent me, her family sent me a note saying she was riding home. She said, you know, I love Joe Biden.
We're told that she did a lot of playing.
She did. Oh, she was. We had her on the swing. She was swinging around in the Oval Office. She was really good.
Mr. Biden was also making a stop this evening in Westchester, the affluent community just north of Manhattan, for a campaign fundraiser.
All right, James Rosen, thank you so much for that. Well, as President Biden continues to hit the campaign trail, touting Bidenomics, the numbers just don't lie. Today, it was announced that the U.S. economy grew at its slowest pace in almost 2 years, much lower than what many people were expecting as inflation continues to wreak havoc on the economy.
Let's bring in our economic experts to help us interpret those numbers. The president of Strollmark LLC, Hilary Fordwich, and back with us is T.W. Shannon, the president of the Chickasaw Community Bank. Great to have you both with us here. All right, T.W., I'm going to start with you here. Numbers not so great for that guy who keeps talking about Bidenomics.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, you know, we keep hearing these stories about how great the economy is from the Biden administration, but when you talk to everyday Americans, that's just not the case. And now the numbers are bearing that out. You think about 3.4% GDP last quarter. The last quarter of 2023, and now we're down to 1.6%. The sad news is we've seen this before. We saw this in the 70s where we had slow growth, high inflation, and we know the reason. The reason is outlandish government spending, deficit spending, but we keep doing the exact same thing. I mean, this just goes to show you, Katrina, John, we cannot continue with 4 more years of Joe Biden. We've got to clean house in the White House, because if we don't, we could be seeing this stagflation for the next decade or more.
Yeah, that's what former President Trump said today, too. He says if this continues up until election, it's not going to look good. Former President Trump, this is what he had to say today. Watch, have a look.
When you look at 1.6 GDP, that's a number that nobody thought was possible. That's a real bad number.
So, Hilary, if he's reelected, though, how much time can we change between now and November? Is it possible to change this Bidenomics plan and increase it, or is it too late?
Well, there is no will from the White House to change that plan, is there? The only thing they are changing, John, they're changing their rhetoric, because he's actually not mentioning Bidenomics as much anymore, because the American public aren't fools. And earlier you said numbers don't lie. I would agree with you normally, except for with this administration. Last year, out of 12 months, 10 months of those 12, they revised the numbers quietly after they had pronounced them great jobs growth, and then they were quietly revised down. So in this administration, the numbers actually can lie.
Hilary, thank you so much for coming on.